Okay, so today is a special day. We have the 240 up in the air. It's going to be getting a turbo kit later on, but for today we're doing a CD09 swap, which a lot of people have asked us about the CD09 swap. How does it work? How do you do it? And this is going to be the first one we've ever done with a KA as a support motor. So today we just received the bell housing back. So we had them shave down the front half of the bell housing. So we'll show you what that looks like, and we'll go get the transmission out of the other side of the shop and show you how it all goes back together. So we basically pulled the front half off of the transmission, which is the bell housing part. Wasn't too difficult. Just make sure you keep everything else together. And then we shipped it out, had to mill it down the, I think, 1/4 of an inch or whatever it was that it had to be done, and now we received it back. So stay with us. We'll put it all together, and we'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll figure out how to get it in this car. Okay, so we're going to be opening the box, and this is the bell housing that we had shipped back. And I was quite impressed right away because it looks like they put a lot of layers of stuff to keep it very protected. That's kind of cool. Most companies don't really care. So these guys do. They even built little boxes to protect the side of the bell housing. So we have a lot of stuff, and then here's our bell housing inside. So let me get this thing out of here and we'll see what it looks like. The box looks pretty beat up, but I'm sure it's okay now after seeing what the inside looks like. So I'm quite happy that we sent it out and did not try and do it ourselves, because the tolerance is very, 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 very fine to make sure that all this sits flat and good. But look at it. The machine surface is perfect. They did a great job. So very, very happy with it. Cool. So this is the bell housing that we took off. Basically what I did right now is I'm just cleaning all of this apart and ready. And then this is what the transmission looks like apart in pieces. So we've cleaned all of this all the way around, and we're going to put silicone back on that and put it back together. I apologize that I did not show you guys what it looks like coming apart, but at that time we didn't have a camera or anything because this is like 2 months ago. So when you take it apart though, very important thing, make sure that you clamp this mid casing to the rear casing so that you don't have any problems about having to take this whole thing apart to reseal the back half of the tranny also. So we're just going to reseal the front part of it. I'll show you how it goes back together, and then the process of taking it apart is literally just backwards of how it goes together. So it should be very, very simple. So hang on a second and we'll get that set up for you as well. So we put the front of the bell housing back on, if you noticed. It's all the bolts around here. We put the silicone in it to seal it. And then there's a bunch of bolts on this back side all the way around. Then we put the spring back in the top of here and bolted this panel back in. And now we're going to the front. And if you look from the front, you have this bearing that's pretty much pressed on. It'll actually stay on the main shaft when you pull the bell housing off. Then we have to put the snap ring in to lock it together. And then we'll put the lower bearing in and this lower snap ring in to put this assembly back together. Then we'll come over here and grab the main plate and put the plate on the front of it. So we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so on this application we need the longer throwout bearing, and this is the factory one that comes on the CD09 that goes to a 350Z, and this one is about an inch deeper. So this is the one we're going to be using. I think this is off of like an Xterra or something. I'm not really too sure what it is. We just ordered the part number that they told us. So this is the one we're using. It's about an inch longer, and it'll allow us to push the front of the pressure plate with the Collins adapter on the actual front, because it spaces it out quite a bit. So now it adjusts it so that it all works together. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to jump underneath the 240 and pull the transmission out of this thing, because this tranny's done and this is the new one. So let's pull that trans out, and then I'll kind of show you the difference and then how we compare it and how it goes together. Okay, so hopefully we haven't jumped too far ahead for you guys, but the next thing we did was we took the Collins adapter, which is this plate, out of the bag and just simply put it on the face that we have. So if you look, there's the little dowel pins that were drilled here and here, which in the beginning of the instructions it says to drill these all the way out before you shave this down. And then what I did was I simply set this up here. There we go. set it up here. So now the dowel pins are on, and then I took a paint pen and I marked this and this spot because this is where the starter is going to come into contact with the actual bell housing. Then I pulled, then I set the Collins adapter on the trans, and I marked right here with the yellow pen. There we go. How far in the starter is. So that's the bottom of the outside of the starter. So that is actually right here where the paint pen is. And what I did was I set it up so I know how far I have to go in with this and how much I have to cut. So if you look, this is going to need to be cut right there. So the next step is taking this much material out of right here so that the end of the starter will clear and go in here and fully engage. Okay, so now we were able to notch it out just enough to where the starter clears. So when this goes on, if you see the little paint mark over there we have, okay, it goes like this and like that. And now it clears the paint mark just enough that we know it should clear once it's all in and lined up. So we're going to go with that being a good enough clearance all the way through. So there we go. We just grinded it down, cleaned it up, and it should be okay. That's what it looks like from this side. So now we're going to take this, put some red Loctite on it, and bolt this guy onto the KA. And then we're going to take the tranny and stab the tranny in and see how much of this we have to knock out to fit inside the bell housing, or inside the actual trans tunnel. So give me a second on that, and we'll start hammering it out. Okay, so the next step is a fun one. Now we are underneath where the transmission normally bolts on, right here across this cross member. And it looks like someone already tried to hit this or hammer this. But what we need to do is we need to cut all of this whole entire thing out, because it does not allow the CD09 to fit in here because it's too fat. So if you see the sides of it, see how there's it sticks out about 1 inch on each side? All this has to get cut off all the way down to here, and we need to save these, but we need to cut right along the edge of this, and then we're going to build custom plates that go in right here. So let me get to the grinder. I'll kind of show you the marks right before we cut it, but we're going to cut all this out, and then once we get up to here, it looks like we can drill out the little like weld tacks and drill the 4 out. So hopefully we can drill this out, remove this, and then cut it here and pull all this piece out. So give me a second and we will start removing all this stuff. Okay, so this is what it looks like all cut out. So we cut that main part that goes all the way across, and we cut this one, even though it looks kind of rounded, is actually straight. So we cut that straight, cut this side right here straight, and then took the whole piece out. So now we're going to grind this down to make it nice and flat, and then we're going to build a plate that goes up here on this side and up on this side to make it solid so that we can weld it all in, and then we're also going to clean it all up so it's easy to weld. But the other thing we had to do, which I did not know until I started looking at the other side of this, on the other side behind this is a lot of carpet, and it has that weird material underneath it that likes to catch on fire. So I've actually taken the inside out, the seats out, and the carpet out so that none of this catches on fire. So that's what took us a little while. But we're good to go now. We're going to start prepping it and then building the plates and welding it. Okay, so I've welded the plates in now. If you notice, here's plate number 1. Light might be too bright. And then welded across the bottom. And here's plate number 2. Welded all the way across and all the way up on the side. I give it, for how I had to weld it, down here on my side in the kind of greasy, muddy junk stuff that's down here, I'd probably give it a good like 8 out of 10. I think it looks pretty good, and there's some good beads on it all the way up. So, cool. There we go. Now we're going to start hammering up that side of it to get the transmission in. Bolt the Collins adapter up to the motor one last time with the red Loctite like it says to, so it stays on there permanently, and then we're going to slide the tranny on. Okay, so we got the Collins adapter in and bolted in and red Loctited, so it's set up good now. We had to hammer this in on the KA because it's not turboed yet, and it just barely touches, so we just hammered that in a little bit. It'll be fine when we change the exhaust. So other than that, it's good to go. It's all torqued. The starter's in place with the studs that now go through the starter. You just have to drill out the starter and then the studs will go right through, and then you now bolt the starter in from the back side with a nut. And the reason why it's like that is so you can actually get the starter out with the transmission still in the car. So that side's good to go now. It's good all the way around. We had to drill a couple things, like modify them, just I think because the paint got a little thick. But after you do that, it's good to go. So now we have our transmission, and we're going to start to stab the transmission and see if it hits anything up here as it goes up and down. But back here is all done, and these guys are finished and painted on both sides, so we should be ready to rock and roll. And on this tranny, we are using the Serial 9 edition short shifter package. And the reason we're doing this is to give us more clearance for the 240 and up on the top half, so it goes up into the actual slot of the factory shifter. So nothing really has to be modified on the top side, because this is going to be a daily driven vehicle in the end, so we want to keep as much of the factory stuff inside as possible. So this is the one that we're using, and it looks very good. I'm quite happy with it, and how it's set up is pretty impressive. So we'll test it out once we get it up in the vehicle, but I'm sure it'll work just fine. So I fought with it for a little while, but we got the CD09 up, we got the bolts on it, and then we used the cross member that comes with the Collins adapter. And then this is the factory mount off of the stock KA trans. So just stock KA trans. If you look up in the hole, it fits quite nice. It's literally just perfectly centered all the way around. And we have clearance on both sides. Plenty of clearance on that side and plenty of clearance on this side. So we're good to go. We're going to finish up the top part of it, and then we just measured it. So we measured from right there all the way down to the face of the diff, and it's 49 3/8. So 49 3/8, all stock setup. That's the actual length if you're ordering a drive shaft, at least on this one. So KA with CD09, from there to down there is exactly 49 3/8. So we're gonna lower this car down on the ground. We're gonna order the drive shaft and wait for the drive shaft to come in. Also, what we're doing is we're gonna get the clutch line made, so we have the right clutch line from there up to the master, because the clutch was, if you see it right here, this is the old clutch, and we need it to run over to this side now. So get a separate clutch line, and then we should be good to go, and that should be the end of it. So cool, stay tuned, and we'll get it done. Okay, so we're almost done with this guy. This is the CD09 swap Turbo 240, and we just got the drive shaft in. So we had to make it down at Inland Driveline, which they do amazing drive shafts for us in just a couple days, which is really, really sweet. They even do last minute stuff. So these are the guys we used, Inland Driveline, and they're about 15 minutes from me, so it makes it really nice. And we talked to Rocky over there, who always hooks it up. And here's our drive shaft. So they made this is a extended some special shaft item that they did for us. So it's a little bit different. We told them we were going to be using it on a drift car, so they make it a little bit heavier duty, because we told them we push about 550 to the wheels. So they built this, made this nice and strong. They also used the upgraded in the rears, and they used the actual piece off of a Nissan Style. So it's heavy duty, but this ring slides right in and locks into the collar. Very, very perfect on the diff side. So always stoked with these guys. They make great parts. I know a couple other companies do good stuff, but these guys we've never had a problem with. We run them on comp cars, on drag cars, on rally stuff, and they've been bulletproof. So Inland Driveline, thank you very much, appreciate it. Now we're going to slide underneath and put the drive shaft up in and make sure it goes through the gears and shifts, and we'll see where we're going from there. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys what the top of this looks like. Really cool setup. There's two nuts, or two bolts, and then 3 separate holes that you can stick the little shaft in. So we put it right here to make it dead center on the 240, but you could put it on this side, in the center, or over. You could also spin this thing and clock it any direction you want, which is really cool, because on like a BMW, you could put it forward, so it's in the factory location, or maybe a longer chassis, you could turn it around and put it way back here. So you could have it fit multiple chassis. So Really like the shifter assembly. It's really easy to shift. So that's total throw is just right there. So it's very, very, very easy. For second, first, neutral, up, down. Yeah, very, very nice. So pretty solid. I like it. So we're gonna put the center column back together, like all this stuff, and we are running a new shift knob, which is a Tomei shift knob. So just looks like a normal smooth Deleron shift knob. So that's what's going on top, and we're pretty much done. So let me show you what that looks like in a second. All right, so there we go. Shift knob on, good to go. Shifts really, really smooth, super easy, and it's a solid throw, so I love it. All right, let's go fire it up here in a second and see what it does. All right, and here's the oil that we used. We always run Kendall just because we think they're the best. And we are running the fully synthetic gear oil. Let me see if I can get the specs on it. There we go. 7590, that's what the manual says for this motor. And these, or for this trans, sorry about that. And this is probably the best oil I've ever used. It has high zinc in it and has some titanium lubricant. It's very, very nice. It's similar to the Tribodyne. But I like this a little bit better than Tribodyne because the Tribodyne up here, let's see, this guy right here is nice as well. The only problem is if you spill it, this blue dye that they use in it just destroys floors. So, yep. Now we've changed the Kendall. Love the Kendall, and I appreciate it. So that's what we're using in the transmission right now. Okay, so we finished installing the clutch line, and we ran it this way to get it away from the exhaust. And then up top, it looks like this. It's tucked right in through there, runs right around here, and then loops around and runs right up to there. So that's the new clutch setup, so we're all good to go there. And other than that, it's pretty much done. So that's the end of the swap for us. Hey, so thanks for watching this episode on Imagine Garage. CD09 swap, really appreciate it. We've had a couple people hit us up about this video, so we found a car, did it. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from it, and hopefully it helps you out on your builds as well. If you enjoy the video, click like. If you enjoy the videos that we do, go down there and press subscribe. It helps us to create more videos, better content, and have more fun here at the shop. So stay tuned, and we have more videos coming up shortly. Thanks for watching.